So we're going to shift over to Alabama basketball. We do have some updates as it relates to the transfer portal, and then we will get out of here. So first things first, as I record this on Monday, April 28th, I know I had an update on the last episode talking about how Alabama was trying to get Cedric Coward to visit. Duke was doing the same. We were both in the final two. Unfortunately, Duke was able to get him to visit first. And as often happens, Duke was able to close on the visit, right? Alabama pushed very hard to get him to visit Alabama first. Some of the reports were Coward was more of a fan of Duke, whereas his camp and family were more of a fan of Alabama. Ultimately, Duke is able to get him on the visit first, and he committed while on the visit today. So as of April the 28th, Cedric Coward is off the board and has committed to Duke. So unfortunately, Alabama is going to have to look another way when you're looking at a lead guard. We'll talk a little bit about another option that is possible and is popping back up here in just a couple of minutes, but that is one thing I wanted to let everybody know, because I know last episode I talked about him being a potential option, and unfortunately it looks like he may not be one. Two guys that I do think will be committing to Alabama very soon unless things change fairly drastically. Rylan Griffen, he was on a visit to Alabama back this past weekend. Obviously, we know him very well. He was on the Final Four team. He's a guy that we talked about at length a few different times. He is a really, really elite scorer, a good defender, is a guy who I think is upset that he left Alabama. He understood that his decision to leave Alabama basketball was not what he needed to have done. I think that he understands, hey, this is not what I should have done. I should have stayed with Alabama. That system fit me much better, and that's something that he's starting to realize. Right, it's the reason he officially revisits Alabama. There's been a lot of things going back and forth, and there's a lot of conflicting information. Maybe the best thing to say, but there's a lot of other things kind of coming out about it. I would not be too concerned. I would expect Rylan Griffen to be in an Alabama jersey next season. By all accounts, he does want to be in an Alabama jersey next season, and I think it's more of a matter of him and Nate Oates and staff working everything out, trying to get everything finalized, but I do expect him to be in an Alabama jersey this next season. The other guy that I expect to be in an Alabama jersey next season is a Tarleton State transfer by Keaton Bristow. I do expect him also to commit to Alabama. He's more of a forward, a wing type. I'm not sure how much he will contribute this next season. I think that he definitely has that potential. He has a really good block rate for his size. I know he had a couple of huge blocks on Keyshawn Hall from UCF that committed to Auburn. There's some other, really solid defensive plays as well as offensive plays. He averaged 11 points and 4 rebounds last season, obviously at a much lower tier level than he would be playing in the SEC, but obviously guys can still take that step up. I am very, very curious to see what role he would play in the team next season. He's a guy that I'm very unsure about. Not sure what Nate Oates' thoughts on what role he would play on the team. I do not expect him to be a starter, even if he does commit, but I do think that based on what we're hearing, it is very likely that he commits to Alabama here very soon. The other guy that we're going to talk about, and we've talked about him at length, and it feels like some information may have slightly changed. I don't want to say that it fully has, because there's a lot of information and things that have went all different ways as it relates to this guy, but it's LeBaron Philon. So LeBaron Philon entered the draft back a few weeks ago, and the way the statement read was like he was all in on the NBA. And so a lot of us took that to mean he is not leaving it open the way it was written. He's not leaving it open for a return to college. We then learned a little bit later that that was not the case. LeBaron Philon was leaving it open for a return to college. He hired a certified agent so that he could come back, and that LeBaron Philon would be potentially able to come back to college should he so choose. Then we started hearing some information related to if LeBaron Philon doesn't get a top 20 grade, he's going to come back. This is some of the most recent stuff we've heard about this. Obviously, there's a lot of things to come, right? There's a scouting combine and other things. Previously, I had thought that Alabama as a team and staff was pretending, or I'm going to say operating under the assumption that LeBaron Fallon was not coming back. That was a big reason why Alabama was going after Cedric Coward and such. But it's starting to feel a little bit more like an LP return is possible. Obviously, it would be a great thing to see. I think that another offseason with LeBaron Fallon and him knowing the system and being able to play a different role without Mark Sears would be a really good thing for him. I think that he could work on his shot and work on some of the things the NBA may want him to fix and be a surefire lottery pick next season. It is just something to mention, right? I'm not sure if he comes back. I don't want to say one way or the other because I am not 100% on that. I will say right after he announced and I sent a tweet out, I got a text message that kind of led me to believe maybe it wasn't 100% that he was leaving. I kind of brushed it off because of the circumstances. It's definitely possible that he comes back. I still need to see it to believe it because if a guy is going to go at the end of the first round or, worst case, very beginning of the second and wants to continue his dreams of the NBA, it's going to be tough to see me, think that he's not going to want to stay in the draft to get that position. Although LeBaron Fallon being an Alabama kid, if the combine folks tell him, hey, this is a really stacked draft, we don't think you're going to go top 20. We're looking at you more as a top, maybe top 40 guy. But if you work on XYZ thing, we think you can be a lottery pick next season, then he may return, right? So that is something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. An LP return is still possible. Like I said, I would not hold your breath on it, but I think it is still possible and would be very curious to see what happens on that front. The last thing that I'll talk about is I want to discuss the 4 guys that left Alabama this last season. They were with us this past season. They all entered the transfer portal. They all 4 now have portal destinations. You have Darion Reed that just announced today that he is committing to Porter Moser in Oklahoma. Jaron Stevenson committed to Hubert Davis in North Carolina. Mo Diabate, we discussed previously, committed to University of Kentucky and Mark Pope, and then Nas Cunningham went to UNLV. Obviously, with Darion Reed and Mo D being interconference, we will play them next season. Depending upon how the SEC-ACC Challenge happens next season, if it's a North Carolina return trip to Coleman, we may play 3 of the 4 guys next season. So just a heads up, those guys have all chosen their transfer portal destinations. The Jaron Stevenson one does not surprise me at all. Obviously, him being a legacy at North Carolina, his mom playing there, being from Chapel Hill, that one makes 100% sense. The Mohamed Diabate, when you understand the finances surrounding that one, it makes a little bit more sense. The Oklahoma one is a little surprising for Darion Reed. I know his family was a huge reason for him entering the portal, and I was under the impression that they would have wanted him to be closer, and he's from Georgia, so Georgia felt like the place to kind of think of starting out, and then him going further away in Oklahoma, that one definitely surprised me. I'm curious of the fit there. And then Nas at UNLV, I'm very curious to see what he does at a slightly lower level. I think this is a much better fit for him, and a guy who, is going to look to prove what he's worth at a lower level program and see if he can maybe come back to higher level Division I. So that's what I have to talk about. Like I said, not the longest episode today, but obviously a lot of things that need to be discussed. The NFL draft being some of the most important, and then the updates as it related to the basketball transfers that have decided some locations, as well as a couple more that seem to have decisions on the horizon. So, as always, I'm a part of the Believe Podcast Network. I really appreciate you. If you have not subscribed to the show, please do so. It really does help out the channel, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, however you find the show. If you would subscribe, leave a comment, rate the show, anything, it does help out the algorithm. I do appreciate it. As always, if there's anything else you need or are curious about, throw it down in the comments. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.